This is no one from nowhere, and you are, and I am a spirit of God. Today I want to talk to you about the Anunnaki ANU Enlil Enki debate between sheep and grain. First, a couple jokes. How does a meat man say goodbye? Till we meet again. And what does a meat man say when he's packing your freezer? I'm a freezer packer from way backer. What are the philosophical debates of the gods, Anu, Enlil, and Enki, setting up the planet Earth for mankind? How does this relate to the biblical Genesis account? And what does it have to do with Cain and Abel? First, I take you to Cain and Abel, found in Genesis 4:1. The man had relations with his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have produced a man with the help of the Lord. The debate between sheep and grain, or myth of cattle and grain, is a Sumerian creation myth written on clay tablets in the mid to late 3rd millennium BC. 7 debate topics are known from the Sumerian literature, falling in the category of disputations. Some examples are the debate between winter and summer, the debate between birds and fish, the tree and the reed, and the dispute between silver and copper. These topics came some centuries after writing was established in Sumerian Mesopotamia. The debates are philosophical and address humanity's place in the world. Next, I take you to Genesis 1 through 2. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless wasteland, and darkness covered the abyss, while a mighty wind swept over the waters. The computation, the first 61 lines of the myth were discovered on the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology catalog of the Babylonian section, tablet number 14,005, from their excavations at the Temple Library at Nippur. This was translated by George Aaron Barton in 1918 and first published as Sumerian religious texts in Miscellaneous Babylonian Inscriptions, number 8, entitled A New Creation Myth. This tablet is 5 by 2.6 by 1.25 inches. At its thickest point, Barton describes the text as an elaborate statement of the non-existence of many things once upon a time, and considered it a statement that mankind was brought into existence through the physical union of a god and a goddess. Next, I take you to Genesis 1:26. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and the cattle, and over all the wild animals and all the creatures that crawl on the ground. Stephen Herbert Langdon also translated further parts of the text and discusses the myth, saying, one of the most remarkable tablets in the museum is number 14,005, a didactic poem in 61 lines on the period of pre-culture and institution of paradise by the earth god and the water god Enlil. These are also the Lord gods known as Enlil and Enki. It was then thus increased to 200 lines in the myth called Cattle and Grain by Samuel Noah Kramer in 1959. He called it the second myth significant for the Sumerian concept of the creation of man. In total, 17 pieces were found by Kramer to belong to the myth. Later work has added to this, and modern translation has removed the identification of Lahar and Ashnan, naming them simply grain and sheep, also known as cattle. This can be equivalent to Cain and Abel. The story. The story opens with a location, the hill of heaven and earth, is not a poetical name for the earth, but the dwelling place of the gods, situated at the point where the heavens rest upon the earth. It is there that mankind had their first habitat, and there the Babylonian Garden of Eden is to be placed. The Sumerian word Eden means steppe or plain, so modern scholarship has abandoned the use of the phrase Babylonian Garden of Eden, as it has become clear that the Garden of Eden was a later concept. Kramer discusses the story of the god An creating the cattle goddess Lahar and the grain goddess Ashnan to feed and clothe the Anunnaki, who in turn made man. Lahar and Ashnan are created in the Duku, or pure place, and the story further describes how the Anunnaki create a sheepfold with plants and herbs for Lahar and a house, plow and yoke for Ashnan, describing the introduction of animal husbandry and agriculture. The story continues with a quarrel between the two goddesses over their gifts, which eventually resolve with Enki and Enlil intervening to declare Ashnan the victor. Next, I take you to Genesis chapter 4, 2 through 5. Next, she bore his brother Abel. Abel became the keeper of flocks, and Cain a tiller of the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought an offering to the Lord from the fruit of the soil, while Abel, for his part, brought one of the best firstlings of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not. Cain greatly resented this and was crestfallen. And crestfallen means sad or disappointed. The discussion, Samuel Noah Kramer has noted the parallels and variations between the story and the later one of Cain and Abel in the biblical book of Genesis, Genesis 4, 1 through 16. Once again, we are at a crossroads. There is discussion on this myth and whether or not this is a biblical representation. Please, you be the judge and leave comments. This is for some vegetarian choice over carnivore, or perhaps, more importantly, acidic or alkaline. Also, were Lahar and Ashnan and humankind, were they upon earth already when the Anunnaki arrived? Or can mankind live without animals and only survive on bread? Or is this the debate, in essence, have equality, meaning they're both equal and it's the cart before the horse? Please, you be the judge. Quotes from the myth itself. When upon the hill of heaven and earth, An created the Anunnaki, since he neither spawned nor created grain with them, and since in the land he neither fashioned the yarn of Utu, the goddess of weaving, nor pegged out the loom for Utu, with no sheep appearing. There were no numerous lambs, and with no goats. There were no numerous kids. The sheep did not give birth to her twin lambs, and the goat did not give birth to her triplet kids. The Anunnaki, the great gods, did not even know the names of grain or sheep. There was no grain of 30 days. There was no grain of 40 days. There was no grain of 50 days. There was no small grain from the mountains, or grain from the holy habitations. There was no cloth to wear. Utu had not been born. No royal turban was worn. Lord Ningersu, or Ninurta, the precious Lord, had not been born. The god of wild animals had not gone out into the barren lands. The people of those days did not know about eating bread. They did not know about wearing clothes. They went out about with naked limbs in the land. Like sheep, they ate grass and their mouse and drank water from the ditches. Genesis 3:10. He replied, I heard you walking in the garden, so I hid. I was afraid because I was naked. The benefits that grain and sheep bring to the habitation are also described. They brought wealth to the assembly. They brought substance to the land. They fulfilled the ordinance of the gods. They filled the storerooms of the land with stock. The barns of the land were heavy with them. When they entered the homes of the poor who crouched in dust, they brought wealth. Both of them, wherever they directed their steps, added to the riches of the household with their weight. Where they stood, they were satisfying. Where they settled, they were seemly. They gladdened the heart of An and the heart of Enlil. Next, I take you to Genesis 3:22. Then the Lord God Enlil said, "Look, the human beings have become like us, knowing both good and evil. What if they reach out, take fruit from the tree of life? Then they will live forever." The final merits of grain are emphasized in a proverb at the end of the myth. From sunrise till sunset, may the name of grain be praised. People should submit to the yoke of grain. Whoever has silver, whoever has jewels, whoever has cattle, whoever has sheep, shall take a seat at the gate of whoever has grain and pass his time there. Today I leave you with Genesis 1:29 through 31. God also said, "See, I have given you every seed-bearing plant all over the earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit on it, to be your food, and to all the animals of the land, all the birds of the air, all the living creatures that crawl on the ground. I give you all the green plants for food." And so it happened. God, or Anu, looked at everything he had made, and he found it to be very good. Evening came, and morning followed the sixth day. Thank you so much, and always remember that all roads lead to the Sumerian gods called the Anunnaki. Peace and love to you.